hear congestion in your voice.
Yeah, I can't. I've got a cough and just some weakness, but 20 days on my feet, I'm feeling pretty good. Thank you.
Glad to see you back in the saddle. Okay, I think we have a quorum now. I see Mr. McDermott, Mr. Benjamin.
Yes, we do. The only person that we're missing right now is Miss Wheelo.
Okay.
Otherwise, we do have a quorum.
Okay. All right. Are we pushing this onto YouTube?
The meeting is also streaming.
Andrea, are we pushing this onto YouTube?
Yes, that's what Janine is doing.
Okay, I didn't see her icon on here.
Hi, it's Janine. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. You're Cuyahoga County generic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Will the generic you please move us on to YouTube, please?
Yes, it's live.
It's live. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon and welcome to Cuyahoga County Community Development Committee's Reinvestment Advisory Subcommittee. This is the meeting of Wednesday, May 12th, 2020. It is a virtual meeting. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll for us, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens.
Present.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Blackwell.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Wheelo. Ms. Wheelo is absent at the moment. Mr. McDermott.
Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Zone.
Present.
Mr. Benjamin.
Here.
Mr. Sarin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The next matter is approval of minutes from the meeting of April 14th. Folks had a chance to look at those quickly, briefly, scan them.
Yes.
If there are no major issues, I'd accept a vote to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. If there's no conversation, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved and accepted. And now we have nothing.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, is there?
Madam Chair, yes, we need to go back to item number 3, public comment.
Oh, okay. Have we received any public comment?
No public comment was received.
Okay, just to make sure.
Thank you.
But we have some members in attendance today who, if they want to make comments at the bottom and they're not official members of the committee, we could do that. So now we could move to the first item on our agenda. We had had Emily Brayman talk to us about appraisals. As committee chair, you sometimes have to give the courtesies to the chair. I am really concerned about what appraisals do to make or break the housing endeavors we put into our core city and our inner ring suburbs. Because of that, if you'll be all gentle with me, you'll see that continues to pop up as we go through the process. And last week at Legal Aid Society's annual meeting, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown was the main speaker. And, you get to, when they're virtual, you get to send your questions in to the chat. And I asked if his committee could do something about appraisals, because we keep hearing, I can't do anything about it. And the state is avoiding having real substantive dialogue with us. What good does it do to know a U.S. Senator if you can't get your questions answered? So that is something. Brian, did you hear about that? Can you wave, say yes, no, shake your head? Yeah.
No, I wasn't aware of that conversation. I wasn't.
Okay. So at the Legal Aid last week, I asked the senator to begin to look at addressing why appraisals, even after we folks like Mark, myself, Matt, in our previous lives and in our current lives. We've been in, I see Kate Monter, Durban today. She also, we are building houses. We're spending $225,000 on example to build a single family house, and we can't get it appraised for more than 160. But the same house, if we moved it to Beechwood, would appraise for $400,000. So there's something wrong with a system that does that consistently. And for that large of a hit for the construction of these units. And so in addition to this committee, that's something that I have a burning desire to find at least some mediation for it. But what we did get a chance to obtain as a follow-up to that meeting where Emily spoke was her study. The city of Cleveland released it to us with a simple ask from Paul Herdig. We received it within, was it 2 days, Paul? I'm sorry, it took me a minute to get it circulated to you guys, but it is a document that explains to a certain extent what they saw. Frank, did you get a chance to look at this?
I have not looked at it carefully, but I have skimmed through it.
Okay, because you usually do a better analysis than I do.
I'm sorry that I didn't this time. You probably are ahead of me.
So I want to open this to dialogue because it's incredibly, one of the first responses I heard was that staff at the city didn't understand why appraisers, because they do a lot more commercial appraisals than residential development. They didn't understand why, when we do bigger projects on the edge of the city or in the core downtown, these commercial, industrial, institutional buildings, the construction values are typically pretty close to what the real value of the building is. But when we come up with the single family housing, one of my former colleagues, it's rumored she basically said, no, something's wrong with these appraisals. Yeah, something's wrong. The way they draw the 1 mile circle and then interpret information, that's the weakness in it. So they, of course, say that there's a shortage of appraisers, and that's part of the problem. But I think there's a methodology problem. But those of you who've had a chance to look at this, because I basically did what Frank did, I glanced through it. I have not had a chance to do the old school thing and go through with my red pen and yellow highlighter and go for all the details. So what did some of you find in this? Do I see Mr. Benjamin's hand?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
Gary, go ahead.
I was impressed with it. I mean, it was well done, and I thought she outlined, or they, I guess it was, outlined some of the problems. I was wondering what happened with the memo to the city suggesting some, at least local Band-Aids for the issue. Has that gotten anywhere?
I did not have a chance to. Paul, did you have a chance to look at that?
I have not reviewed this in detail.
Okay. Then we all have to look at the
Opportunity to read it, probably not in detail, and I thought it was very thorough. I also had a chance to go over some of what she found as the challenges and some of the recommendations. I'm wondering though, who's going to act on these recommendations, because I do see that they seem to be some very good recommendations, and I know this went to community development. And I'm just wondering, is Mr. Wackers, is he the one that will follow up on the recommendations? Is there going to be a follow-up report? Because this was very thorough. I thought the properties that they selected and the neighborhoods were reflective of what we have found in our own conversations and studies. So I'm just wondering, what is the follow-up?
So Paul hasn't had a chance to talk with him. I'm assuming that I'll need to talk with Mr. Wacker, and then probably a brief conversation. That at the time, Tanya Manessi was the director to see what her hope for having issued something, a request for this kind of document. Mr. Zone, do you remember what some of the rationale might have been for this ask, or you weren't involved?
I wasn't involved. I apologize.
Okay, no, you can't be everywhere unless you figure out how to clone yourself, and then I need to take you to dinner and for a drink because I need to figure out how to do it myself. I thought it was a substantive start on what is a big reason for us not accomplishing enough. Had you had a chance to see this before, Kate? Because since you're not on the committee, I don't know that I actually got it sent to you. Would you like for me to have staff forward it to you? Okay. Andrea, could you send Kate Monter-Turbin at CHN Housing Partners a copy, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to take a look at that, and we can. If you don't mind, Frank, in the next couple of weeks, I'll sit down with you so that we can go over it more closely.
Sure.
We'll let this topic go. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the review of the Key Bank presentation. And the reason I had the presentation attached and put that on the agenda is that more than 3 people, and when you're in a small group and 3 people come up with a variation of the same idea, that means you should pay attention to it. 3 folks emailed me or the committee. They thought we should talk about what Key Bank said they would do, inferred they would consider, and talk about how we got them to report on it on a regular basis. That is how we actually will get results from them. If we measure what they do and say, yes, they did what they said they were going to do, I see that. I see an expression on a couple people's faces. But if we don't try to measure what they do, we will never get any real achievements from them. So I think Sally was one of those folks. Mr. Zone, were you one of those folks? I'm trying. Can you bring up on the, Gary, you were. Andrea, could you bring up on the screen, or Khalil, those comments so that we could all look at them at once? Who's controlling our screen?
That would be Janine.
Janine, can you share the screen? So Khalil, have you found it yet?
It's Janine. Screen share is enabled, so you guys can share your screen.
Chairwoman Stevens, I'm looking forward to looking.
Okay, I'm sorry, I hadn't noticed you were there.
Yeah, I don't have the comments.
Who sent that to me?
I have it up. Do you want me to share it, Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, would you please?
Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I will follow your lead, Madam Chairwoman, but so this is what you sent as an attachment. Here is what Key Bank said that their commitments that they have completed.
Okay. So.
Can I comment on that third one,
Go
Councilwoman?
ahead.
Which is really what they label number 2, right?
Number 2.
And if I read, it's a third, no, I'm sorry, it's a third one, but it's their number 2. Expand affordable mortgage products. And I'm a little confused by their answer, but what I'm reading is that they will continue to offer their products, their higher LTV products, but only in the city of Cleveland. I think that's what I'm reading. And that's what I'd sure like to follow up and get an answer from them on.
Well, so we're not just concerned about the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a primary statement of this committee, that we must we must get these lenders to understand that while we are concerned about Cleveland, without a doubt, we have a commitment to the core city. There are suburban communities, first of all, the first ring suburbs, and then the balance of the county that we have major concerns about. And they must begin to do something across the community, not just in one community, and think that we'll be okay with that. And I'm sure they watch our YouTube presentations. So I'm hoping they heard that very clearly and concisely. It disappoints me that they don't get how important the financing of homes and the rehab of those homes after they've been owned for a while are to us and to the health of the community in general. For those of us who have been or still are elected officials, we know that where housing is a majority of the land use in a city, we need that reinvestment in the homes for our communities to stay healthy. And if our housing stock does not stay healthy, then we begin to lose population, the houses begin to lose value, and we do not have strong financial statements. So their understanding of why they need to help us invest in homes is critical to the health of all 59 municipal jurisdictions. Yes, it includes those jurisdictions that are healthier because they have higher appraisal values or were developed after the core city and the first ring suburbs were. So the data on this is incredibly important to us. I'm sorry, I can't look at the screen and look at y'all too. Did anybody have a?
Yeah, just as an action item follow-up. So we're asking clarification if it is solely within the city of Cleveland or the entire county. All right. Under the bullet point below, data sharing, how Key has delivered. What they didn't put in there, they said they would release the performance data prior to the publication upon written request. Upon written request is a little vague. It appears to me that they want the county to make that written request. As we've heard many members, Barbara Anderson, Frank Ford, and other members on this committee say that they would love to get this information way earlier than August in the calendar year. And I'd ask maybe Frank and Barbara if they would comment on this point.
I'm not sure. Am I muted? I can't.
No, we can hear you.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I think the last time we talked about this, I actually, thank you, Matt. I actually pointed out that when they're under the section where they say how they have delivered, they say will. They don't say what they have done. So it's definitely a problem that they're sort of claiming they haven't done something when they haven't really done it yet. But I think Matt's point is well taken, that it's really difficult when you get calendar year loan data as late as August. August would be early. It could be September or October. And by the time somebody analyzes it, typically when I'm done with it, it's November by the time that it gets released. So we're talking almost a year late. If they could get the data, even if it was for the first 6 months of a calendar year, if they could get it to this subcommittee with caveats that,
So I should ask for partial data.
Yeah, I think even getting, because if you got the first 6 months of, well, let's even take 2021 right now as an example. If shortly after June 30th, sometime in July, we had the first 6 months of the lending data for this year, we could be looking at it, possibly in August, and they could redirect or correct anything that they need to address for the remainder of the year, as opposed to it being possibly 10 or 11 months after the year's already finished. That would be the ideal scenario.
I think also we should be able to identify a month as opposed to just leaving it open, that you'll send it to us as soon as you have it.
So I'll be so bold as to say we'd like to receive something on or around July 15th.
I like your boldness.
Madam Chair, if it's okay
Yes.
with you, I know we quickly jumped over the first two items on the agenda, item number 5, item number 10. Maybe we should see if there's any comment from committee members on either one of those as well
That would be
for
great.
follow-up action items.
Well, I have on number 5, they told us what they did, but they didn't tell us whether it worked or is working. I'd like to see if they actually got more CRA production or not, because if I watched the numbers okay, I think their production's down.
Well, we had the chart, which I forwarded to the council president, which showed lower production. Was that the city of Cleveland, Frank? Or was that the entire county?
Are you referring to,
You gave it to us at the last, I did a screenshot of it from the last committee meeting.
what I did, the research? I
Oh,
did?
yes, yes, yes.
What I can't remember is, so I did this a number of different ways. I did it Cleveland, I did it Cuyahoga, I did it East Side, and I did it East Inner Suburbs. I am not 100% sure which specific one, but I could look at it pretty quickly if you want me
Okay.
to. Do you want to move to something else and come back?
Well, Madam Chairwoman, and Frank, Madam
Yeah.
Chairman, not that I'm trying to play traffic controller here, but I see Mr. Murray has his hand raised. He might want to.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I missed that. Director?
Thank you, Mr. Zone. I just wanted to let the committee be aware that we did in fact make the written request to KeyBank for the 2020 HMDA data, and we received it approximately April 26th of this year. And I'm working with the Department of Development to have the data reviewed by a third party, and then we will, of course, get the information back to this committee as soon as we can.
Could you send a copy of that to us? I think we want to look at it too.
Of course.
Would
you like me to send it to you?
Yeah, if you go ahead and send it to me. With Frank Ford on our team, I think that between a couple of our staff at the staff, like Joe and Trevor and Khalil, and Frank and I think we could figure out how to read the HMDA data. I haven't read it in 5 years myself, but I'm willing to take a stab at it. Frank?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to help with that.
Okay.
I did find what I'm not sure exactly which one I showed you, but what I could say generally is that they did increase their home purchase mortgage lending over the 4 years of their community benefits agreement, but that still put them below Huntington and Fifth Third, but they were very low 4 years ago. On the east side of Cleveland, the numbers were pretty low and slightly improving, but they went from, for example, 5 loans to 17 over a 4-year period on the east side of Cleveland. So that's, meanwhile, Huntington was at 48 loans. Home repair is where they actually dropped. They had been the leader in home repair before the 4-year period, and they declined countywide, they declined in the city, they declined significantly in the east side of Cleveland by half, from 60 home repair loans down to 27. So, they're moving upward with home purchase mortgages, but they started so low, they have a ways to go. They were very high on home repair, but they've been dropping throughout the 4 years of their community benefits period.
And as Trevor, if you can move forward, I know it's on one of the next 2 slides, their help program, their home repair, and the challenge program. I'm sorry?
But no, this is Matt Zone. Madam Chair, I'd be happy to, I guess I'm doing the screen sharing, so I'll move wherever you want. But
I'm sorry, I thought Trevor had it.
But my suggestion is we didn't even talk about low cost check cashing. So I think before we just jump
You're
around.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. 1 page at a time. Thank you. So low cost checking, was there a comment on, well, there should be a comment on that. They tell us it's available, but they don't tell us how they're going to help make sure that more people use this.
This is Mayor Blackwell. I'd like to comment on this. Given that almost 2 years ago, they closed Citizens Bank at Broadway and Libby, which is kind of my downtown. They have a commitment. The commitment was to leave an ATM machine for 2 years, and that's almost up. Then that moves that traffic to Southgate, where Key Bank is. There's just no measurement tools. For me, to in this seat, it's difficult for me to understand if these commitments, and I guess that's what we're doing today, so I don't want to be critical, but for low cost check cashing, and then right down the street at the corner of Living and Lee is a check cashing service. So I'd love to see people be able to move to low cost check cashing so they can get secured credit cards and get the credit bill that they say they need to buy a home. It's kind of a process. And I just don't know what they're doing in that prime spot with the loss of that branch, which had over $27 million deposits being closed. And Chip Bromley was very helpful. We raised our hands and we protested. But I don't know what we've done to solve this issue as that traffic needs to move to Key Bank. And is it moving to Key Bank, or is it going to the check cashing place just four storefronts away from Citizens Bank closed on Broadway? I just don't really know. So how am I able to be effective and make sure we're trying to get people to this service if it exists? I just don't know. Thank you.
So we need them to be specific on this one. Not just tell us that they've got a good idea.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Madam Chairwoman, to what Mayor Blackwell said. They do identify available at 10 locations throughout the city of Cleveland. What are those locations? And then also, are there any in the suburbs? And if there are any, what are those locations as well?
Well, we start this out by reminding them that we're Cuyahoga County's advisory committee, not the city of Cleveland's. I don't know why they can't tell the difference between the levels of government.
Yeah. Should I move on to the next page?
Yes, please.
But before we do, I just want to say it would be really helpful to have numbers. Like, what is the trends with these products? Are they improving over time? Are they declining over time? I mean, it's just really hard to figure out how anecdotal this is or isn't without numbers.
Well, that may be part of the idea.
No, good point, Kate. All right, I'll move on to the next slide, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
So item number 1 is the HELP program. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on what the commitment is and how they've delivered on HELP.
I think I will just repeat, what they're saying is they're not really saying, just to go back to Kate's point, they're really not providing us with anything that says how they might have improved their home repair lending, even through just the HELP program. But it's also worth noting that the Home Repair Resource Center and Greater Cleveland Reinvestment Coalition have been asking Key Bank for about 2 years now to expand the Challenge Loan Home Repair Program countywide. So it's not a new ask, and that seems to be somewhat stalled. So in light of the fact that the data shows that their home repair lending actually is declining, it just seems that this is an area they ought to be stepping up. They ought to be showing more concrete what they're doing in terms of numbers.
So we'll get to the challenge loan program on the next page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just limit my comments to the HELP program. Even with the HELP program, I would still say the numbers are low and they're declining.
Any other comment on the HELP program, either on their commitment or what they've delivered on? Okay, go ahead, Madam Chairman.
No, I just said with the SBA loans, that is a major issue for the county. And I know that the president of county council is really concerned about how lenders act with small businesses and facilitate opportunities for them to grow. Just as we are concerned as county government with how we encourage small and minority businesses to participate as vendors for our organization, so that we make sure that we find those businesses, provide them with opportunities to work with county government, and then pay them on a timely basis. So it's of major concern that they are hiding what they do under a trade secret comment to me. And I don't want the name of each business. That would be nice, but they could give us numbers instead of saying more than 1,000 PPPs. And I know because my nonprofit did PPPs, those weren't easy to do. And I'm wondering how many people got turned down in addition to what did they do this year? Because there was a second round of PPP. And did they do more in the second year than they did in the first year?
Still struggling with the fact that they are still just talking about the Cleveland market. I would like to know where the location were for these PPPs and the dollar amounts given to each one of those locations. Even if we don't know the name of the business, again, I would like to know them, but as long as we knew the communities, how many in South Euclid, how many in Cleveland Heights, just that and the dollar amount would be nice. How many in Maple Heights? I think that would be helpful, because here they still continue to really center on the Cleveland market, and I don't see anything else.
So I did some research on this because our church got one of these loans.
Oh, great.
And the SBA's website, you can look up by zip code, all the loans given in that zip code and how much. So
very good.
It was really handy. We were trying to figure out how one of our tenants was telling us it was broke. And I found they had gotten a couple of these loans. So.
Okay. So even though Key Bank is holding it under trade secret,
we could find that out, yeah.
SBA is letting us know. Okay, thank you.
They don't say who got denied, though. I think that's a great thing to ask.
Well, I think
not necessarily who. I guess it is definitely something that's protected to tell us specifically who got turned down, but they could give us the numbers of small businesses that were turned down. And the where they were located.
And the percentage in each reason. I mean, we're 40% turned down because of, and 20% turned down because of. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't think that SBA website broke it out by bank. I think it was just what the SBA had.
No, I was hoping that the bank would do that.
Right, that would be handy.
Madam Chair, Mayor Blackwell has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor Blackwell.
Thanks.
I'm just here to staff you, Madam Chairwoman.
It's
a good thing we liked each other in advance, isn't it?
Such a great, he's one for procedure, so he's on point. I just want to add to that. We are doing, the city of Maple Heights is partnering with the Urban League for MBA certification, and we kind of want to get, so they can do business with the government. But it would be nice to be able to to complement these products in one setting. So we give them this piece, but then how do they go about, because PPP is not here to stay, but how do they continue this relationship? Hopefully their business grows. So we do this with the Urban League. It's just so piecemeal. It's difficult to keep it all together in some organized flow chart, if then, writing, okay, so if I have the Urban League here and they get MBs, then they go here. It's just difficult to do. I don't know if that exists with anyone. You get these calls from the bankers saying what they can do. Everybody's calling, they want to get your residents to do their down payment assistance or their secured credit card. But economic development to a city like Maple Heights is significant in our revitalization. It really, really is. And so if I'm doing this with, just to recap and move on, but if I'm doing this with the Urban League, then what can I do with Key Bank and SBA loans? Is there a way to kind of put that together and give a full presentation to that person that's coming through small business training and MBE certification? You know, how do we do that? How do we give them this packet for success, this roadmap? I'd love to be able to do that from the seat or with my economic development. That's something very powerful. So there's some handholding, and then they turn into true businesses. I've got a whole Broadway I'd love to fill up with some small businesses, people with great ideas. But how to get there with banks in our community, Southgate, and you've got Fifth Third over here at the corner of Libby and Lee, and further down is, what is it? I forget the name of it.
So one of the nonprofits that I work with has done for housing, for home ownership opportunities, is to create events where all the banks are invited and they get a booth, and they would be asked to be specific about the ranges on rates and terms for different products, so that literally somebody could shop banks for home ownership at one of these events. And so I remember last year's event in another city at another county had 7 different lenders at it, talking about how they wanted to help people buy homes of their own. Why couldn't we do something like that, or encourage that to be done regionally in Cuyahoga County, where we had 7 to 10 lenders present to tell our businesses how they could borrow from them or how they could take training classes for them. I know that, is it PNC that has the center on Carnegie in Fairfax?
Yeah.
That does some of that. So what we need to figure out is how to encourage not just Key, but to the mayor's point, a series of lenders, so that her folks and all of our constituents across Cuyahoga County get a chance to look and compare and shop and do what we hope consumers will, find the best mix for what they need. Somebody's offering a shorter term but a lower interest rate. That might be good for me, but the mayor might need a longer term, so she might be willing to pay 1/4 point, 1/2 point, a full point more, depending on how they handle what the fees are, et cetera. So maybe that is one approach. Other ideas, folks? But Mayor, is that the kind of idea you were looking for?
Not exactly.
Kind of?
I've done the whole rent the school cafetorium and do that. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for the residents. Everybody's handing out pens and Snicker bars and Twix bars and notepads. It gets overwhelming and it's distractive. I'm just trying to create the flow chart here in this office. So like we have in the Urban League, MBA certification next month. And then us kind of know what the next step is in terms of funding for them to get the certification and maybe grow their business with a storefront online. Not so much the in the room, because I left with probably a bag full of Twix. I had 20 pens, notepads, and a bunch of Snickers. It just gets overwhelming, and people just start going and just filling up their bag.
So you want more one-on-one opportunities for them?
Or consult, yeah. And I think Khalil probably can help me out. He's pretty good with this.
Yeah, that was sort of the thing that I was going to talk about. Is sort of a concierge service almost. The technical expertise for doing these things. Some of these small businesses are experts at their business, but not necessarily experts at growing it. So the core function of the business is one thing, but the, accessing capital, the steps you need to take, the preliminary steps of record keeping, back office things that need to be in place in a comprehensive way in order to be a good candidate for accessing the capital in the first place can be lacking. And so, creating a situation, almost like I know there's the Small Business Development Center that, can help businesses do certain things, but there are other technical consulting that we could help to provide or subsidize in order to make some of the small businesses a little bit more capable of accessing this capital in the first place. Now, that could be something, I know that there are models for that for small businesses, financial literacy, for people who need personal loans or mortgage loans and that kind of thing, to make them a better lending candidate. And that could be something that we try to expand as well.
So when you say we, Khalil, I didn't think this committee was supposed to actually do the work. We're trying to get SBA or Key Bank or a group of lenders to do this together. Or was it the Urban League you said, Mayor Blackwell, to help facilitate that? And that may mean that Key needs to strengthen their relationship with the Urban League to help the Urban League get the right kind of opportunity for one-on-one or concierge service. This is supposed to be their strength, lending money to small businesses. And therefore we need to get them to do the work and to report to us on what they've accomplished. Because once again, they are wordsmith, they're really skilled at wordsmithing this, so we don't know exactly what has happened.
Madam Chair. Sorry. Go ahead, Khalil.
Okay. You're okay. Really briefly, I did want to say I don't think that I'm known for advocating for or on behalf of the big banks or anything like that, but I do want to at least mention that it might be more palatable if we are asking them to do something, to maybe ask them to do it in partnership with us, or possibly even working with, the business schools in the area to provide certification programs for training people within those businesses or something like that, and funding that in collaboration with public sources. They may not be willing to fund it themselves or produce it themselves unilaterally or without our support. I don't, there may be other sources of funding as well, foundation funding that we could, as a collaborative group, the county, the banks, so on and so forth, get together to ask for philanthropic support as well. So I wouldn't want to limit us to saying that Key has to pay for it all themselves or produce that program all themselves, if there are other collaborative ways that we could explore.
Did I see Barbara's hand go up?
Yes, I'm thinking about what you said, whether or not that would be something that we need to do, or is that something that Key needs to do? Could Key reach out to other resources, and perhaps if they wanted to partner with a foundation or wanted to partner with someone else, then that would be fine. But is that something that you're saying that we as our committee should be doing, or is that something that Key should be doing?
I have strong opinions about that, Madam Chairman, if I could comment on that.
Yes, please.
So Ms. Anderson raises a good point. I think it is in the purview of this committee that we should send a follow-up communication to whoever Key Bank's point person is, that we strongly encourage them to reach out with the Urban League and any other partners that we identify, and then let them respond back to see if they follow through. This is an amazing opportunity to be the depositor for the county. And for that amazing opportunity comes great responsibility. And so let's see how responsive they are to our request.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Madam Chair, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in on that. And, you know, aren't there like relatively successful programs out there? I know we're talking about the Urban League as one, who are working with small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't feel like they should be like reinventing the wheel here, but should be supporting the infrastructure that's already in place and using that infrastructure to be making connections with small businesses.
EDCI programs like that, Kate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yes.
Why are we always starting from scratch on everything? Like, there's stuff out there, and it's their job to figure out who's doing that work, who's working with these small businesses. There's capacity building programs, training programs. They should be connecting with that infrastructure, and then they should be reporting to us again on their success in actually making these loans.
Thank you.
Good point. Does council administration have enough to go by to respond and send that appropriately to the right person?
Joe, Nani, did you disappear on me?
I'm here.
Nodding his
Sorry
head.
about that. I'm here.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you assign Levin to help staff me on this one?
No, I can do it, or me
Okay,
and
so
or
you'll
Khalil
help.
and Trevor.
You
So
are
we
going
can-
to help me draft this letter.
Yep, I've been taking notes on
Okay.
what everybody's been
Okay.
saying. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Madam Chair, before you move on, could I just throw out one other thing I just noticed?
Oh, Frank, I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that I should.
No, I was reading and then I had to shift to look and see who had spoken. Sorry.
That's all right. I've been looking more closely at what the commitment said, and I think I might have misread it the first time. It says they will increase by 20% SBA loans based on the 22 million they did in 2019, increase it by 20%. That'd be like another 4 million in 2020. But they say SBA loans to LMI small businesses. So it isn't SBA loans generally. And I apologize if somebody else already pointed this out in the last 10 minutes and I missed it. It really seems that they ought to be getting back to us. I know they talk about COVID-19, they had to redirect things, but I don't think we should lose the fundamental commitment and somehow get them to try to come back to it, that it's SBA loans to LMI, small businesses.
Right. Okay.
Oh, we also need some clarification on the LMI. Does the business have to be LMI or located in an LMI census tract?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So,
Madam Chair.
Yes. Oh, Councilman Miller, welcome. You've
Yes.
probably been here for a while and I'm just now seeing you.
Right, I came in about 2 minutes after you opened.
Okay.
You've been busy.
Thank you.
I have one broad level comment, which is that I get the sense that the key bank is looking at this from the perspective of we have certain things we have to do to make our business grow and to make a profit and to do things we want to do. And one of the things that we have to do along the way is to kind of package what we're doing and make it look as good as possible on this community reinvestment stuff. But I don't get the sense that they're really fully committed and totally on board and believe in this and are totally committed that it's something that they want to do because it's the right thing to do and that they're going to partner with us and we have to try to get them to that point so that it's not a matter of having to send formal letters and drag them kicking and screaming to support, to report this stuff so that it's more of a truly collaborative process.
I don't disagree, Mr. Miller. I think that we're going to have conversations and written word with them. Khalil and I had we exchanged emails and texts earlier this week or late last week about having follow-up conversation with the folks who have leadership. I'm not just imagining that, Khalil, am I?
Oh, no, I think that we can set up some conversations.
So, but I need to make sure, or at least from my perspective, I want to make sure that I represent the perspectives of the committee, not just Cheryl Stevens, member of council. So that's the reason for this dialogue, so that I get the strength of the points that the members of the committee are making, so that I can say to them, because we took care to make sure we had a diversity of people represented on this committee, so that we could say that what we're presenting is not just a small group of individuals. There's diversity in what we represent. So if you would continue to lead our dialogue here, Mr. Zone.
Yes, Madam Chairman. So on reduction loan transfer fees, anyone want to comment on loan reduction transfer fees?
When we met with them and their answer, I think I was the one that asked them about this, and the commitment was to reduce fees. And what they explained was that instead of reducing fees, they're giving borrowers below $150,000 loan value a credit of $1,000, which they can apply to the fees. That sounds okay. I'm wondering if anybody else sees, is there a weakness in that?
Well, I'd like to know what the fees average. Is that $1,000 significant in reducing let's just use the $150,000 threshold. What are the fees for $150,000 finance?
Right. Because
and collectively, if they're $2,500, $1,000 is a good reduction.
Okay.
But if they're $5,000, it's not a good deal.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I totally agree with you. And let's ask them what are their fees average on 150. I'm guessing pretty strongly that you're in the market there on the 2,500. And if we find that out, get that data, then I think we could decide, yeah, the 1,000 is truly significant, which I think it probably is.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next page. Here we go, your favorite topic, the Challenge Loan Program.
Okay, who goes first?
Well, Frank has been chomping at the bit to comment on this one.
Moved it all the way to one.
Yeah, it is, we've talked about this before, and others probably could talk about it maybe better than me, but the Challenge Loan Program has been very successful in Cleveland Heights and over, I think it's 40 years. And it's a way for people that have challenged credit who might be denied a loan to get a second look and given a second opportunity. And key elements of it, for those who don't know, are maybe, I can't remember if Keisha already went through this at one of our meetings, but the two things that I'm thinking of is, one, it provides the borrower with financial counseling to make sure that they're going to be able to repay the loan, that they're positioning themselves to do that. It also helps the borrower, I believe, work with contractors to make sure that they understand bids they're getting, which is significant. So there's a couple things that are built into the Challenge Loan Program that really give it a high success rate. And by success rate, what I've been told, or we've been told, is that it's like only a 5% default rate over the 40 years of the challenge loan program, which
That's correct.
Given the starting point that everybody who's in the program only gets in if they've first been denied through normal underwriting. So when you take a group of borrowers over 40 years that have been denied, and then you get them in this, and there's only a 5% default rate, that's very significant.
So I've had a couple of conversations with Keisha, who's the executive director of HRRC. They sent a proposal to Key, and it's my understanding that Key has not been proactive in telling them what they needed in order to support them, or to provide them with more funding, or if they would do any of the alternatives that might make this program be capable of growing to serve more folks. Has anyone else talked with the folks at HRRC?
Councilman Miller has his hand up, Madam Chairwoman.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Miller?
I just did not take it down. I didn't have any comment.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Frank,
Yes.
your box is highlighted. I wondered if you had something to say.
Oh, no, I may have just shifted in my chair and it created a sound which highlighted the box.
Okay.
Well, certainly we have had, I'm sorry, this is Barbara Anderson. Yeah. We have had conversations with Keisha, and what you have said seems to have summed up the information that we have received from her during that conversation. And this is not just a new conversation. We have been doing this now for years. And so I just think it's important for Key
so
to...
in any of your conversations, Mrs. Anderson, did they say why they didn't want to invest either in a program like the Challenge program or provide support and funds to HRRC?
You know, it has never been totally clear. And as a matter of fact, they have spoken highly about HRRC and have said that that's something that they showed an interest in and that they have done in the past. So you would think that if they had, if it was really a challenge for them, that they would specify why and maybe even have an idea of how to improve it. But that has not, they have not been forthcoming with that.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? This is Khalil, by the way. The next steps section where it says need to establish source of loan loss reserves for expansion. I seem to remember some commentary about not being able to fund something and then also be the fund a loan loss reserve and then also be the lender. I'm not clear on that, what the regulatory source is for that, but something I remember hearing.
It's not unusual to want a loan loss reserve, but you typically say, we'd love to do this kind of program. Here's what we'll do, and then we need this from you. So if they would tell us that they need, that they are willing to do 5 or 6 things, then that would be something that Cuyahoga County potentially could solve. Because a loan loss reserve is typically money that sits and doesn't get lost, especially if it's managed as well as HRRC has historically managed this opportunity for funding. It says here that they talked with the folks at CHN. Ms. Monter-Durbin, do you remember any conversation with your agency?
Between us and who?
Key?
I am sure we have talked to them about just about everything. I'm not familiar with the specifics.
Okay.
If you want, I can get back to you.
Would you follow up on that with your team, please?
Yes, and you want to know, are they talking to us specifically about
something like a challenge grant?
Okay.
Because
okay, we'll do.
Madam Chairman, should we move on to CDFI?
Yes, please.
I had one more comment.
while we have the mic, just because I can't find the chat function right now, I don't know why. I do have to sign off for 3 o'clock, but it's been a
Okay.
pleasure.
Thank you. Come back next time.
Will do.
This is Gary. I had one more comment on the challenge loan. We're asking them to do this program throughout the county, and they're talking about certain zip codes.
Yes. Yes.
I don't get that. I don't think if they do this, they're meeting their commitment. If they're gonna cherry pick zip codes or something.
No, I mean, if I'd like to comment on that too, that's a good point, Gary. Madam Chairman, let's face it, there are certain zip codes where there's less lending happening. So if there's good reason behind it and they're going into certain zip codes, whether it's 106 or wherever, we'd like to know what are those zip codes and how are they prioritizing them. I don't think that we completely attack Key on their strategy until we know what their strategy is.
Yep, that's good.
I will say though, this, just as an addendum to that, you just mentioned 106 as an example, but that goes to the point of zip codes are, I think, a poor choice for prioritizing this kind of expansion, because I know 106, the difference between some areas of 106 and other areas of 106 are dramatic in terms of income, wealth accumulation, property values. Census tracts might be a more precise way to do this prioritization. And I assume that prioritization means the rollout and not, addressing some and not others.
That's a very good point. I would, the way I would communicate it to them is there are sub-markets within zip codes. And so if they could share with us their methodology and how they're prioritizing, and if they can further break it down according to census tracts, would be helpful. CDFI creation, anyone have any comment on this?
I know that CHN has been working to create a CDFI. Did they get their debt? Does anybody, since Kate left, does anyone know if they received their designation in this last round? Because they would be the first nonprofit other than a Village Capital to have that designation, which would mean that they'd be able to raise money from partners and have a more focused ability to lend both for housing and for small business development, because there are some CDFIs that have become new market tax credit lenders throughout the state. So this would be wonderful.
I think they may have gotten that designation. If you look at cdfifund.gov, they've got an awardee profile, CHN Housing Capital.
Oh, then they did get the award?
Well, I mean, unless I'm reading this wrong.
Well, I'll email Kevin and Kate and find out. But if they've received that award, then they can help with solving the problem by making a deposit in CHN CDFI.
Good point. Any other comment on CDFI creation? If not, we'll move on to loan loss guarantee. Any comment or questions on progress to date or next steps from Key? Okay.
Paul Hertig or Chris Murray. I don't see Paul anymore. I do see Chris Murray. Chris, could you talk about what potential sources we could use for a loan loss guarantee other than CDBG money?
I would love to, Councilwoman, but at present, I don't think I can speak to it intelligently.
Okay,
I don't know.
so
I don't know what the strategic plan for Department Development is.
I will need you and Paul to kibitz on that.
Okay.
So that between the two of you, in the next 2 weeks, you can tell Joe Nani what you think potential sources are for a loan loss guarantee, because that would work for number 1 as well as for number 9, the challenge grant. I do understand why a lender might want some loan loss reserves for the challenge grant, but I'd hope it would be a small amount of money.
Certainly.
Okay.
We will
Madam
report
Chairman,
back.
your next favorite topic, appraisal standard adjustment.
Okay.
Any comments from the committee members?
Okay. If there are no comments on appraisals, oh, two more, I'm sorry. I had only thought there were 3 pages.
Community Reinvestment Fund.
We need to tell them we need to find out what they really hope to accomplish with this.
Okay. Financial literacy series.
So it looks like here they'd like for us to help give them the names of places to do a series of these literacy and education programming activities.
So if the county could, or the county council could prioritize what parts of the county you would like to see them do that, I would send that off to Key, with obviously input from the committee members. I'm going to quit sharing the screen, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you. Well done. Councilman, you haven't, I'm sorry, former councilman, you haven't lost your skills.
Happy to serve.
Okay, what we need to do now is talk about how often we want them to report and whether we want to create a form for them to do that. And it's after 3 o'clock. So the question is, because generally we like to have this meeting last an hour. Are folks still willing to spend another 5 to 10 minutes discussing this for a little bit, and then maybe we come back? The committee that did the draft mission statement, we could ask them to look at a form for this or format. How do folks feel about that?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
You worked so well before.
That's because Frank ran us.
Frank
Well,
and Matt are the
Sally
people who are going to
ran
keep us
Frank.
on track and not wandering. Every group needs you, Matt and Frank. I'm not opposed to your being here. I'm happy. Okay, so my recommendation is that we ask them to begin to report quarterly, but we need to have formalized what we want them to report. How does that sound?
Right.
So the team task will be coming up with key reporting factors and trying to get it into something that is comprehensive, but not biblical in proportions. Does that sound reasonable as a mission for the committee to work on?
I think it is, and something measurable.
Right.
Yes.
Right. May not be biblical, but measurable.
Let's just get, I don't want to see something that's 15 pages long.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's my perspective of the Bible. I like it. It's needed, but it's long. Okay. Other comments from my friends and colleagues? Stop laughing at me, Mayor. Okay. New miscellaneous business. Any comments from my friends, colleagues, and fellow activists in the housing world?
Madam Chairwoman, I just threw some, I don't want Key to think that we're trying to make them out to be a villain here. I think it would hurt our efforts with trying to get better compliancy and better outreach. So I just felt compelled to make that comment. I'm sure, as you said, Key is probably monitoring this meeting right now.
Yes.
We need them to be, they're a good lender, and we need them just to get better. And so I just wanted to create that context for this conversation moving forward.
Not a problem. I do believe that Key is a substantive stakeholder in Northeast Ohio, not just in our marketplace. And for that reason, they should want to partner with us. There are moments when the words we choose and our perspective probably is more strident than they'd like for it to be. But just as they have a mission to make money for their stockholders and the investors and to pay the employees of their institution, we have as a commitment to be activists on behalf of the residents of Cuyahoga County. And to the extent that those two things will be mutually supportive, I think that is our role, to find ways that they can support our constituents and at the same time achieve some of their goals. I do not believe that is mutually exclusive. And I would presume that no one on this county advisory committee believes that we would inhibit them from making money. But what we want them to do is help us create the kind of communities that are vibrant into the future, and their lending can help us do that. Mr. Council President, would you like to wordsmith me on that one?
Thank you, Cheryl. I'll do a very short wordsmith. I agree with both you and Matt, and I do want to echo the words of Matt Zone. They certainly they are. I'll just remind they were the only responder to our banking contract. Just certainly want to keep that in mind, and we do want to be partners with them. I wholeheartedly support everything that you said in terms of the need for them to play the critical role that they can play in this community. And our desire to continue to push and encourage them. But we just have to use that biblical expression, the wisdom of Solomon, to figure out how we're going to strike that balance and cut this thing in half and make it work.
No, we don't want to cut it in half. We want to keep the baby whole.
That's right. We're going to keep it whole. I think the baby stayed whole in the Bible too. So, so we do want that, but and certainly in the spirit of cooperation. We want to, again, move forward with them as a strong partner and continue to encourage them to do the things we know they're capable of doing. And again, in the spirit of cooperation. So I will leave it at that. And again, thank you for all your hard work, Cheryl.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mayor?
Well, since we're on a spiritual journey here.
Hey, I went to church with you before, so you know I go occasionally.
This is a ministry. And in our roles of service, we owe it to our residents, the people that we serve, to hold those who are in business or have agreed or made an agreement, formal, informal, to make them whole. We have a responsibility to make them accountable. There is advocacy in ministers. In the pulpit, we're praying for souls and salvation, deliverance. And so since we're talking about the Bible here, let's be clear. It is not to beat up on them, but I will not apologize for advocating for the least of them. And that is the people that sit here in Maple Heights. I will not apologize for hold those accountable who have said publicly and in this document that they will do certain things. That is the reason I'm here. I don't think there's an elected official here that is not on this call and spending this kind of time to deliver those promises to the people that we serve. That's a ministry. That's service. And I don't think KeyBank and anyone there that has that same spirit of service that have put this document don't want to do that. They may need our help, and that is what we're doing, and being very clear in our language and being very clear on what we're asking for the people that we serve, that make deposits. And you guys have given this great agreement. There's an ROI here. There's an ROI here. That is a return on the investment of the people of this county. And I don't apologize for asking for that ROI. I just don't. There's a way to do it, and I'm very respectful of that. I don't think anyone would do that. But if you're going to, look at check cashing fees, and there's going to be just if I put a campaign promise out there, people are holding me to that. I have put it out there. It's documented. I've said it in my mouth. It's on my literature. And that's what I pledged to do. And people have a right to hold me accountable. I think that's what we're doing. And if we weren't doing that, I should not be sitting in the seat.
No, you're supposed to be in that seat.
And I'm just going to say amen.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I wanted to point out there's a hand up in the participants list. I think, Mr. Ryan, you have your hand up.
I'd like to recognize John Ryan, who represents U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been on listening. Brian had suggested us to jump on, and I'll tell you, it is really impressive what all of you are doing. Of course, you're my representative on County Council, but beyond that, I also see that Councilman Zone acquired new skills when he went over to the nonprofit sector, being a good staffer for you. So that's a good thing to see. But seriously, the work you're doing today really makes a big difference in neighborhoods like mine. And the fact that you're pushing on these issues, I was on that call that you mentioned, Madam Chair, and not only did Sherrod, not only did the senator speak about wanting to be more involved in helping to find a way to resolve this, but he also gave you a nice shout out because you're not just the elected official, you're someone that really knows housing, something that the senator is really concerned about. The last thing I'll just mention is Brian is leading an effort in our office in state, pulling together different discussions around housing. And we are learning a lot. And with the senator to chair of what he likes to view the housing, banking, and urban committee, he really sees housing as a major issue he wants to do something around. So we will struggle with all of you to push the envelope to make things more fair, to make sure that this appraisal issue, which quite frankly, I benefited from when I bought a house on the east side of Cleveland, those homes are worth far more than what anyone pays for. But it's not going to help the community to keep it like that. So we really look forward to working with you on these issues. And Brian's going to be pulling together other people around the state from our staff to have and listen to discussions like this. So thank you for the good work you're doing. This is
thank you so much. And
some of us like to watch the sausage being made.
It is. Can I get you to commit to either attend or have Brian attend with us regularly?
I have no problem attending regularly. I'm very interested and very vested in this. These efforts. I believe Cleo, as a matter of fact, was on the call with Sally Martin that she pulled together a couple of weeks ago when she had investment bankers, realtors, and we were talking about this housing discussion. That's why it's very important. And I please, if I can get my hands on that document, that appraisal document, because
then we'll send it to you.
Yeah, that's
amazing. I have both of your email addresses, so you'll get it sometime in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, I have no problem. I'm committed to these efforts, and I would look forward to working with you all. And as I'm putting things together around the state, definitely having you all involved in that, so we can have a robust conversation and put some thoughtful, meaningful work, do some thoughtful, meaningful work moving forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the senator's staff for chiming in. Okay. Any other comments on the miscellaneous? Oh, Mr. Zone?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, it's great to always have Mr. Ryan join us, and thank you, John, for joining the call. Just a point of personal privilege. It's a slow news day when I don't get at least one email from Brian Ayers. I probably get at least 2 a day from him, and he's great in keeping us informed. So Brian, thank you for what you do. My request, Mr. Ryan, would be in the future that when Senator Brown is conducting a hearing, whether virtual or in person, maybe take this committee up on the opportunity to testify and share perspective on these complex issues that are confronting his committee. We're fortunate, we have Frank Ford on my team, who's a national expert in this space and has done a lot of policy and research work around this, in addition to other people on this call. So I just wanted to create and extend that opportunity to Senator Brown, and know that we stand ready and available to support his advocacy through that committee.
Thank you. And Brian probably talks to the housing folks on his committee more than the chair of that committee probably talks to him. He's really pushing on this. So we appreciate that very much. That's a good offer.
So you have at least 8 advocates who at any time would be willing to speak virtually. And when we go out of the virtual mode, some of us are willing to make the trip to DC to speak to the committee. This is really, really important, not just for Cuyahoga County, but for the people of America.
Yes.
If there are no other comments, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all for your attendance and your hard work on behalf of the committee. I will be reaching out to the folks who will help create questions and a format for regular reporting, so that at the next meeting, we can see it before we send it out to our friends at Key. And I do not use that term lightly. I think that this is a new frontier, and sometimes there is the need to push and pull, but I think we're going to get somewhere. I do believe that there are good folks at Key who are willing to work with us on this. So thank you all for your time, and the more time that you're going to give us over the next 4 weeks, and see you in 4 weeks.